My name is Jane Moran. I'm the chair of the Upper Charles Trail Committee, and we do have a quorum. And I would like to remind everybody that we are being recorded. So we'll follow our usual ground rules and one person speaking at a time. If you're a member of the committee, raise your hand so I know you're interested, or I'll call on you. And we are going to start our meeting. I was going to welcome Jamie Ronca, but she's not here yet. So hopefully when she does come, we will do that. So at this point in time, I would like to open it up for questions and comments from the public. So we are being
There they are.
recorded, folks, and we are on. So have a seat. There's a seat over here, Ken.
All right.
So Ken, hi, Peter.
You go by.
Okay, so does anyone from we have a few people out there. Would anyone like to speak? Or can raise your hand or
Good question.
ask a question? Well,
Hearing none.
well, Peter, would you like to comment?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. You must be Jamie. Welcome. Yeah, come on in, have a seat.
Want to see, where you want to sit?
Anywhere. Good evening. Nice to see you. Good.
It's going well.
Well, thank you for volunteering your services, Jamie.
My pleasure.
Let's see if we can get you a copy of the agenda. I'll pass this down.
Stop here.
Lori Gosser
You gotta
would
go
like
there.
to
What are these things for?
admit.
Lori's, huh?
Yeah, Maury's here. So we have agenda, we have our goals that you could hand her.
Huh?
And would you need any documents? Do
Where are you? Early school with them.
you have an agenda?
I looked at that. I think I'm must have been-
Okay.
Eric,
All right.
is there a new, excuse me?
Yes.
Madam Chair, is there a new list other than the working list of our goals? Is there a
Here's the one for.
more updated one on my
It
scribble?
has the assignments on it.
Yes.
Yes, there should be.
Okay.
No, that's not.
No, those are the
We
minutes.
had it.
It was
Here's like a.
floating
subcommittee
around
minutes.
here.
So subcommittee minutes?
No,
Real minutes?
our work.
We're not looking.
Have none.
Here's looking for.
Take mine.
No, I don't want them. I got them here.
Good morning. This is morning.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what Cynthia's.
I gave her one. I gave her one.
I'd like one, please.
Oh, there you go.
Very much.
Here, one.
Great,
There you go.
thanks.
Hell, we
Perfect,
all got it.
just great.
Are you marking up the minutes over there?
All right, so would anyone from the general public like to speak or ask a question? Okay, we're probably going to be covering a lot of ground tonight, so if you're in the general category, take notes and ask your questions and maybe we'll get, we'll get to them
Can I ask one
later on.
question?
Sure.
It's probably part of the welcome. So what is the procedure for Upper Charles with alternate members? Just
Okay, so
Curiosity.
it's, so the difference is alternates don't vote.
Yeah, is it like
But-
ever, or if there's one person missing, or if there's an issue, like what is?
Elaine
the-
could answer that, but I don't believe,
I believe that the alternate can make up the quorum if you need a quorum
okay.
and vote.
So if we only had four voting members and we had an alternate, then we would have a quorum.
With the alternate.
In other words,
So they could vote.
there's only four
Okay.
of us show up and you make the fifth for a quorum, then you get the vote.
It was a very good question.
Thank you.
Richard Cunningham would like to come join our meeting. Welcome, Richard. Before we get started on our agenda, Richard or, let's see, Katie or Maury or Brenda, anyone like to ask a question or have a comment for us? Just raise your hand if you do.
This is the only chance for input other than the committee.
Yep.
Okay.
Right, because committee's gonna go work through all of this material here. Okay, so, we have asked, first of all, I'd like to thank, Dave and Elaine and Matt on the staff for coming and joining us and being ever so faithful to this group. So I have asked Dave, our town engineer, Dave Del Terrio, and Matt from VHB to give us an update on the work that they have been doing for our committee.
Excuse me.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to abstain and step back for this discussion as an abutter.
Oh, okay.
So should I stay at the table or come back?
I don't,
Get the
You're
black
not a
hood,
butter.
get the black hood for him.
We're not going to.
Probably not on
That's okay.
Thing, are we, Elaine?
Well, am I?
butter until we have a.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
so we're not at
okay.
the point.
I just wanted to make sure that,
Well, that's clear.
Everybody in
Full
town says
transparency.
butter.
okay, so I'm able to ask questions for
words.
clarification and everything?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Because we're not anywhere near voting on
Okay, just wanted
anything.
to make sure. Thanks for the
No,
clarification.
great.
Other abutters
Good
if they were
question.
there.
What's that?
I've put other abutters if they were on, remote there, right?
No, he was.
For myself,
Yeah, yeah.
as a committee member, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll shoot it back to Matt and Dave.
well, hello, I guess I'll start. I can give you an update on the survey of Hayden Row right away.
Sure.
They completed the right of way survey, so now, the town, the goal of that was, back months and months ago, the discussions about segment, I think it was 7, being along Hayden Row. We were trying to identify what the right of way width was, and we couldn't identify it easily. We did our own research and still couldn't find anything, so we hired VHB to do a kind of a full survey. They've identified where the right of way is. So now we know. Haven't done much more than that. I know some of the discussions, initial discussions were based on, we provided a typical cross-section of what, a bike path might look like anywhere, street USA. And it required a right of way with between 49 and 55 feet. And we presented that board at, I think the April, public outreach, meeting. So right now, the initial investigation, the right of way width varies between 60 feet to, I haven't measured every 5 feet, but it's between 60 feet and down to 49, 46 in some areas. So, I haven't really looked at it further than that, because the committee kind of stepped back from looking at that segment for now. So, but that's completed. So we do know where the right of way is, and we do know, between a little after Granite Street, College Street, no, Granite, sorry, no, the whole survey limits,
Oh,
little past
Granite Street,
Granite Street.
close to the high school, right?
So we have that right away located now.
I'm sorry, it's after north or south of Grant Street?
Towards Milford.
South, thank you.
So between College and Grant Street, we didn't quite get to College Street, but
Okay, so is that, we'll let
That's
him
how we-
finish on that piece. So questions from the committee members?
Yeah, through the chair, so you said, that it varies down to 46 feet, but I didn't catch what you said was the typical width of a sidewalk bikeway on a public highway.
I referenced the graphic that we presented.
Yeah, so what was that number? Yeah, there's a number.
Presented, there was different options for some of the shoulder widths. I think it was 49.5 to 55. And that's with bike path, and then you have a buffer. Sidewalk on the other side. You have a buffer on that side as well. And 4-foot shoulders, I think, between 2 and 4-foot shoulders and 11-foot travel lanes. I can try to
Oh, that's fine.
I can try to find that graphic and pull it up if you want, but
But so that would,
Follow up? Yeah.
that would mean that in some places where it's down to 46, you might need to, if it was to go there, then you might need to take additional action, right? Or,
Yeah,
or do you
if that
think, or do you
typical-
think this,
right.
a bikeway could squeeze 3 feet? Maybe it could.
yeah, and I'm not sure. With that graphic that we show, that you'd have to do something. You'd have to take
Right.
property in order to use even the smallest cross section of that typical bike path to go through that.
Question for the
Scott,
chair.
Sure.
Dave, Matt, did you guys look at the position of the road within that
Yeah.
right away?
Yeah,
Let's see, did you see that, I know it's not conclusive at the point, but did you see that it varies
it does.
so is that what drives sometimes the 46 versus
No,
60? No, okay.
no, the 49.5 to 55 was a typical cross section.
Okay, got it.
And that would need to fit in,
It's more conceptual, got it.
yeah.
Okay.
But the roadway, Hayden Road through that, area is sometimes in the center of the right of way, sometimes it's almost all the way to the west.
Yikes.
Sometimes it's all the way to, almost to the east.
Yeah,
So
just-
it kind
it's just
of,
random.
it was kind of random.
Yeah.
But as we
no rock.
mentioned way back before, if anything would ever happen as like a town project, it would be a realignment of Hayden Road, because you'd have to center it within the right of way to, or not necessarily, but you would have to do some sort of large project as we,
And we didn't survey the roadway all the way, like they said, not to every foot, but we picked up points every 50 or 100 feet or at intersections just to see where it fell.
for the, to locate where the edge of pavement is within the right of way.
Interesting. Cynthia,
Through the chair. For my own clarification, this survey was the one conducted because we were not able to find any history of a previous survey. Just want to make sure I'm remembering.
Yeah, the committee originally had this as an identified, alternative for segment 7.
Yes.
And the discussions moved into a public forum. And some of the feedback, the feedback that was received, a lot of the questions were around where's the right of way and how much space is in there. The town didn't know, so I took it upon the town to identify where its right of way is.
Yes, good.
For further discussions, if they happen, we now have something, to go by that's, legal bounds, and legal right away.
Very good. Thanks.
Excuse me.
anyone else right now?
No.
Okay, that's good information. It gives us a good baseline to go by, so that, looking forward that is a possibility. That's about it right now.
No, the ultimate goal of the town, is to know where our property belongs. So,
Always good to know.
yeah,
There's so much going on in that section right now, so, yeah. Okay, do you have anything else as far as information to share with us?
the Mass Trails grant that was awarded, all the contracts are signed. The town has signed a contract with VHB. And we've had initial meeting with the state. We have just one more kind of kickoff meeting with the state, to do, but I have to do that tomorrow.
Okay.
It's more of a formality to fill out some online forms and
All the details that go into those grants. Okay,
we've done some initial, I've done some initial investigation with PHP on the existing conditions of EMC Park and the urban and general properties, just as a real starting point.
and that's last year's grant. Okay, we're gonna have discussion on, well, I guess, does anybody else have anything? Peter?
I have a question on that last one. At one of your previous meetings, I raised the point that that application for state funding was before a lot of the controversy arose. And that I thought it made sense for your committee to revote whether or not you would go after and use that money. It seems that, particularly after what you just said about segment 7, that it may not be usable as a result of needing takings and as a result of needing to realign the road, that doing this segment 6 doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. It seems to be taking money and spending it needlessly. So it would seem to me that it would make sense to have your committee revote whether or not to use those funds or whether it made more sense to give those funds back to the state and say, we've reconsidered our options. As I say, I raised that previously. I don't think there was any resolution, but I'm just raising it
No.
again as a question.
Right, I think we did have some discussion last time and, I think, I can just thank you again for your comments and concerns. I think, as Dave pointed out, the contracts have been signed and we're moving forward on it, but thank you for your input anyway.
No desire to vote on the part of your committee.
No, the committee voted on it. Yeah, okay, previously. Yes, Ken.
So, can we make a point of clarification as to whether, accepting the funds does have any impact on later decisions as to whether the trail should go down Hayden Row or elsewhere?
Well, maybe Dave or Matt want to speak to this, but my understanding is that this is preliminary engineering. And that's
Yeah.
what it is right now.
It's a.
It's
you know,
gathering
an alternatives
information.
analysis, more or less, to identify where trails can go through those two properties. In coordination with this committee as well as the original vote at town meeting to include the purchase of those properties was to include municipal uses, including trails. And I would, I would just add, the committee had originally voted to request, CPC funds as well. And you did revote to rescind the request for those funds.
Correct.
As part of your public outreach and the input you were receiving.
Right.
Clarification, if I may. If we use the funds, and don't go full, sorry, the
State
funds are in question for state funds for
Yeah.
segment 6. And we don't go forward with that segment, would we be on the hook for that money? Or is the state funding the investigation and it's not have to be returned?
Matt would be up to date on that one. In other words,
We have
if
to return the
we
funds?
go ahead and do this project, the contract that we've signed, and this is not, well, correct me if I'm misspeaking here, but we decide not to use that part of the trail. Is the town responsible for reimbursing the state? No, I don't think so,
Well,
because this is
I-
all
I think
information
taking money
gathering.
to learn more, my stance is
Absolutely.
to
I mean, we're not going to know.
to learn more information so we can make a more educated decision.
You're engineering,
I mean,
you're doing an
Yeah.
engineering study to see if it makes sense to go forward.
Right, the only thing that I would oppose it if we're using it and had to pay it back. Other than that, money to learn more, sounds good.
Good point. Sure.
Another question about Elmwood, relocation. I don't know. Is the vision, do we think that Elmwood is going to be relocated onto the same lot so that
I think
when you guys
the schools,
consider that, you're going to have to probably, I don't know, what are
I
you doing?
think you need to go to the school committee with that answer. I don't have an answer, Dave.
As part of the coordinating with the schools as part of the assessment of these two properties.
Yeah.
They are in the midst of doing their feasibility study
Yeah.
for identifying where Elmwood's gonna go.
Right.
Um,
And they
That's
haven't decided
obviously
yet.
one of the prime locations. But they're not done with that feasibility study yet, and they haven't picked a final location, but
Mhm.
that's that's all, any work that we do is gonna be in coordination with
Yeah.
the schools and with that committee.
Eric.
The thing in question here with Marathon School is not on the Tadaro property. It's on the original property,
Irvine or Tadaro? Must be Irvine.
it's a Irvine property is where the school is. There could be other access
Mhm.
things other than go down through Tadaro
If we take it further. I mean, that would be another
that's another whole.
Yeah.
engineering
It's
stuff.
good to get that as part of the, which Dave says is part of the research investigation. I think that's
We have a
perfect.
right to be on Tadaro based on town meeting votes, based on I'm on the Tadaro committee, so I,
Mhm.
they fully expect the trail to go through, it's just a question of where.
So this, anything else for them right now?
I have a question in terms of, next milestone, we'll call it, next step in timing, when we'd hear back approximately. Not, wouldn't hold you to it, but, when can we expect?
Well,
that?
there is an ending date with the state. You
Yeah.
have to show
Okay.
funds.
There's
We gotta spend the money,
and
but,
Steps.
um, we gotta continue with the initial, existing conditions kind of survey. We'll probably walk the site with BHB. Pull in some wetlands and local wetlands information. And that obviously identifies big blocks of area where you want to avoid. And then you start laying out your different alternatives, with feedback from the committee, for other access points to that. I'll call it a loop right now from EMC Park. I know Ken mentioned, Blueberry Lane possible. A lot of times on these trails, you'll have local entrance points. They don't open to the public. Neighborhoods can have their own access to them. So wherever we can kind of locate those, that's kind of one of the goals.
Yeah, I was more of the timing, because obviously seasonality, the ground gets frozen, it probably gets harder and the leaves fall and, I'm not an
they like
engineer,
to-
you can tell.
I think they like to get out there.
Yeah,
before
so you
the
probably
weather
want
gets
to,
bad.
can we expect like a next month or so you'd be back in front of the committee with at least an update or 2 months? I don't know.
He has a whole team he has to.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, well, anyways, I don't want to push
As soon
it.
as we.
So
as
maybe
soon as we
next
can.
meeting, that would be a
Yeah,
good follow-up question.
We can, maybe not are you meeting every 2 weeks again now, or?
But you can certainly let us know if you
I
have the
can get it.
information or
I
not.
can get an update in the next 2 weeks and say, here's our schedule, I think is.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that sounds good. A date for a date. That sounds good.
Okay. Having worked on those grants before, we have to show points along the way, how much money they spent,
Oh, yeah.
and when's the date, and the state has all kinds of deadlines for that as well. So, one of the things I'm going to ask the committee members to think about is our CPC applications. The CPC is going to be looking for us to provide them with, where they can help us out this year. And we've talked in the past, I know that we talked about going from Hopkinton State Park and doing some preliminary engineering studies south toward Legacy Farms, through Legacy Farms and all the way down to the 26.2. There's that possibility. I know the working groups are studying all kinds of different approaches. And if the working groups can get back to us with their thoughts on what they might think, some of our goals could be, but we're going to have to try and narrow it down. From previous state applications, we've been advised that we could get a grant of possibly $300,000, right, Matt? Possibly, for mass state grants.
Trails or
Yeah,
mass
mass
trails?
trails. 250 to 300, somewhere in there would be
Right.
acceptable, and then,
It's usually the max.
yeah, 250, okay,
Oh, I'm sorry, 300 is the max.
300.
It would typically,
Mhm.
this last year was a unique situation because they had less applicants as more.
Right, yeah, so that probably won't happen again.
They had the second-
So the committee members should think about where we would like to go in applying for this, and then the CPC, we would be asking CPC for the matching funds. But obvious, yeah,
The Mass Trails grant,
mass trails.
we would likely not be able to submit another
Supported by
application.
20%.
Okay.
So you gotta spend the money under the existing grant.
First. So is that typically every other year that we apply? I was under the thought that it was every year, but maybe I'm mistaken.
If you can spend the funds, but it's tough to spend the funds by the time you get awarded between when all the grant, all the contract administration stuff needs to be done.
You've been every other, right?
It's pretty much very other, I think.
Well, we have a CPC meeting tomorrow night. And, as your representative to them, I'll tell them that we are coming with a request, and I'll explain our goals and our methodology to them.
Mhm.
They're very supportive of us, so I would expect cooperation.
Yes, but, and so this is interesting though, because I'm hearing from Dave and Matt that we probably won't be able to apply for a Mass Trails grant. However, what I'm hearing from you is that we could ask CPC to fund something.
No, what you're hearing from me is I will tell them that we will be approaching this for the state, but there is a matching fund from the town, so we should anticipate up to 20%, what is it, 20%?
20%.
20% of 300 grand, so that we can have that in our thinking. Because if we approve that this year, it makes it, we don't have to wait for a town meeting in the year after we go through all the process, because the money will already be allocated.
CPC can
Oh.
allocate the money, but it doesn't have to.
Be applied directly right now.
Right.
So if we can't apply for a trails grant,
Mhm.
or that's put off, the CPC money could still be there, earmarked, is that right?
Earmark.
Or whenever we can submit another grant
And
application.
that'll make the whole process much easier.
Interesting.
Because last year we wiped it out completely, but it could stay, right?
Kind of through the chair, I'm just trying to, CPC and the Mass Trails grant are kind of completely separate. You can approach CPC requests for money to do whatever you want with,
Well, that was.
separate from the Mass Trails.
Well, we understand that.
No, okay.
The
I
point
just wanna-
is, what are we gonna do with CPC this year? And I'm going to lead them toward a 20% match of our next trails grant, so that we have the money available.
In reserve, sort of.
So the next,
Yep.
it should be February of 2023 would be the next grant. Then after that, it should be February
When the
2024.
money would be there.
They probably won't have the funds spent by then, so.
Well, then the match from CPC would be there.
Well,
Right, so if you don't have
town
a,
meeting isn't until May of 23.
Wouldn't have it.
So we'll
Oh.
be talking about a next grant application in
20.
February 2024.
Yeah.
So if it.
Okay, so if we have the money available
Right.
in July of 23, we're ready to go
next round.
for the next time.
Okay.
Jane,
Yes.
why is it not until 24? February calendar year.
We have a current grant that we have to spend all of the funds in that grant.
And we won't until,
We won't
After
before
next-
February, next February.
It'll be
That's only,
close to, yeah.
February 23,
right.
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 It's likely we won't.
which is
They give
after
you-
the
they give you
application
till the
time?
end of 23 to close out the grant. If you wanted,
When are the applications? When's the application period?
Applications are due in February, but they're saying we won't.
We won't have spent it by the time the application's due.
Not typical, right.
Okay.
We have till June of next year to spend it.
But
Jane,
the time
Yeah, I get that.
between, sorry,
But they'll be able to spend their application.
Matt, I'm not clear.
They can do
Are you saying that we
That
can't
includes
apply for a
original.
There's a
grant
question on the table.
until we expend the funds from the current grant?
correct.
Is that on their website? I've never seen that.
I think, I don't know if it's in, I haven't read their rules
Terms.
or terms, but I think, this past year was unique in that they opened it up for 300,000, whatever it is in December, right? And you prepare and you submit in February. They awarded it. You didn't ask for the full amount. So I guess one of the questions to them would say, can we ask for additional money up to the 300? Since you have 140 less your match, that might be an approach, but they might also say, well, you have a current one. Why are you asking for more now? Spend that first. That's been the trend anyways. They want to make sure you spend that money first and then before they start a new one. Now, there has been times where they close out early and then you get in, but again, it's the timing of everything, the coordination, so.
could we have documentation showing, and committing to spend the money? And show that in February? Is that anything that they've done?
No, they want you totally close.
They
out.
wanted to close it, okay.
I don't think Eli was done. Wait, I don't think Eli was done.
Time. Are you done?
Matt, you're saying it's a trend. Is it formal policy by the state?
I think if you were to go that route, you would call the coordinator with Amanda Lewis and ask her if it would be acceptable. I know in the past, people have called and they've said you have to finish your expenditures for the previous grant first. Again, this past year was unique because they increased around the 500, and then they said, if you submitted something, go ahead and submit something for the balance and the differential, which is what you pursued. But then they got an influx of applications and then they ran out of money. So then if you had something active, they said you were out. And then they went to the next list, the next list. So
Jane,
Okay, so
Cynthia, do you have something?
No, thank you.
We done? Okay. So it doesn't matter, Jane, through you. So it doesn't matter if it's an application for a new activity or a new task? If it's an application for an existing task, like the one that's ongoing, they would say you have to wait. But what, if it was a new task, you'd have to wait also? Like a new phase or something?
Dave,
I'll take a task on to confirm this. And I'll go through the terms and conditions, because I'm pretty sure it's in the terms and conditions of the contract. But it's like any contract, you gotta read through it
and you have
3 or
that.
4 times, and I have that. And I've had conversations with the coordinators,
and that's been your
that's like,
experience. That's
that's
just,
almost any state grant that we've ever received.
Mhm.
All your mass works, all your mass trails, all your state, you need to spend the money on a grant before you can ask for the grant again. So
Or you
they,
can-
they lose money at the end of their fiscal year if they don't spend it.
Jim, are you finished? Your
I
question?
suppose, yeah.
Okay, Ken is next.
I've got a possibly separate idea about CPC, which is just other segments. So, another segment that I think we could spend money on is between Hughes and Granite Street. And in saying that, we could spend it on engineering, but I guess I have a more general question as to whether it's sensible to consider spending money on not just engineering, but also making a passable trail on the property at the same time as the engineering. I've, talked about this before, but I think it's a reasonable thing to want there to be something to show the public when we're spending money. So far, we've spent a lot of money in places, and although we've got engineering plans, if you walk on the ground, you couldn't see anything. So would it be reasonable so in the case of between Hughes and Granite, a trail could be built there, but I think it would help everybody to see just what that trail would look like by having some sort of marked trail on the ground that wouldn't require any actual construction. And it wouldn't actually have to conform exactly to where the engineering might want it to go either, to be useful, in my opinion, because it might help make it easier for to determine where the best path is. So that applies to that segment between Hughes and Granite, but also between the 26-2 Museum and the Hopkinton Dam.
Mhm.
Both of those segments, well, that other segment, the northern segment, you can walk, but it's not very well marked. It overgrows, and most people wouldn't go on it for that reason.
You could go there with your machete.
I could. So,
He's very good with machete.
and in fact, I plan to do that because I'm leading a Trails Club hike, which I can mention later. But
Okay,
But-
so we're getting a
but-
little
but-
off track.
No, but I'm still asking, is it reasonable for us to think about spending CPC?
Maybe we'll
money in
ask
that direction?
our representative from CPC to answer that.
I will bring that up as a possibility. But we won't get any CPC money until we have a firm plan on what we want to do and how we're going to spend it. They won't approve anything on a speculation of maybe we'll do this. But, a firm plan is a vote of this committee, so from CPC standpoint.
Yeah, well, I'm just.
I'm
putting
just
it out there
alerting
for us
them
to
to
decide
what
later.
might-
Candidate, it's a candidate
Yep.
to look at. I like it.
That's all I'm asking, yeah.
Through the chair, I like the idea very much of kind of opening up what CPC funds might do, like Ken's proposing. Maybe there is some other more immediate thing that we could all see. I'm not 100% clear, though, if Hughes to Granite Street it is part of Upper Charles' proposed pathway, is it not?
It's one of the alternatives, yes.
Actually, it's the only alternative in that section that
Yes.
that are on our proposals right now.
Yeah, I just need to hear everything at least 3 times before. But
Feel-
I
feel
like
longer
that.
Topic, all of it.
Who's the current one?
I think in the past we have done that too. We kind of made a rough trail through in the area of McDermott. And I think we used our budget money though, because it wasn't that much.
No, it might not cost very much, that's true, but CPC grants can be.
But we did have to,
Small dollar amounts.
yes,
and along those lines too, when we were planning that segment, we also went before the Concom
Mhm.
to get their permission. So we have, over the years, we've done little things like that. So yes.
I mean, it also could be done in coordination with TCMC if we felt like it, or if TCMC wanted to do it. Such an endeavor, right?
I don't know, I don't see why not. As long as we're, we feel that that's a valid alternative to pursue.
Well, there's nothing in it etched in stone at CPC. CPC gives this to us every meeting. It's every dollar, everything that we're dealing with, the status of every project. And, believe it or not, we actually know what we're doing. It's very good to know.
Yeah.
But what they require at this time of year is let us know what's coming.
Right.
Because all this money is budgeted by, category and by
Right.
buckets and all the rest of it. So I just want to make sure that they don't think we're coming with nothing.
Can I, excuse me, through the chair, can I propose, because this seems pretty meaty, right? And it's good to introduce the topic or kind of get us level set. It feels like it's almost a full meeting.
I would think so.
And get people thinking about it, and to your point, Eric, to get them listed and
Right.
get something more concrete. So maybe my suggestion or proposal to the chair would be everybody through email. Yeah, everybody through
How
email, present your candidates. Next meeting, we talk about specifically what's on paper, so we stay focused.
So I think
It's easy to go all the way around.
it is, and I would point us back to our goals. Because this is a follow-up to something that Ken and I are supposed to be working on. I think it's number 8. So maybe Ken, you and I could get together and come back to the committee. Okay, does anybody have anything else for our, yes, Dave?
I would caution about doing anything via email.
yes,
It goes against,
just to Jane.
No, we would have to.
Could just go to Jane only.
just one person should email Jane, I
Yeah,
think.
Right.
can't go to the whole committee.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind
Wanna
of,
make sure.
I put a general warning whenever I send those out.
And I just wanted to note that CPC applications are due October 13th.
Wow.
October 13th.
They can be used for design and construction for any amount you want. And they don't have to be tied to, they can be tied to future grant applications, but you can use it for whatever purpose you want.
Okay,
Pretty soon.
Yes.
you got that?
Got it.
All right. Okay, good. All right, moving on. Does anyone else have anything for Dave or Matt at this point?
Just to thank you for taking your evenings to be with us.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, it was a lot of good information tonight that we got. Okay, moving on to number 5, if there's nothing else for the engineers, our working groups reports. So I feel like we got into a little bit of that early, but we have more to do. I think Scott has 2. Would you like to
Sure.
jump right in? Thank you.
Sure, Dave's typing. We don't want to read a screen at the moment. So I'll start by passing the hard copy out to the people in the room. It is the PowerPoint. So this is the goal number 10, to engage the community. So I'll give a couple that direction, Eli.
Take one and pass them down.
Yeah, maybe do that because I didn't have a stapler.
Yeah.
PDF side PowerPoint.
Oh, no. Oh.
It says goal number 10. It should be.
Sorry.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay.
Screen,
Yes, you cannot see.
you share your screen.
I am.
Oh, you're sharing it, trying to share.
Some meetings. Yeah.
Oh, you can't share an application?
Window?
There you go.
Can you put this on the screen?
Yeah, he's trying to.
Go up your email.
Mm-mm.
You have to close it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Share that one and then go to your.
Yeah.
Go to that screen, where's that screen?
It's gonna just bring up my
Oh.
screen.
Yeah, I know, but
No,
where
but
is
go
it?
to your PowerPoint now.
I didn't miss them.
Yeah, okay. All right, thanks. So
Okay, guys, we're.
as a level set, it's not gonna take very long. This is not, complex, I don't think, but certainly ask questions. The whole point is to be interactive. And just a reminder to everybody, I am presenting, to you guys for your feedback and thoughts in terms of determining next steps on how to best engage the community, elevate town engagement. So, first and foremost, the level set, goal number 10 was to elevate town community engagement by 4x the level of respondents to the April 22 survey. How do we do that? We're on slide number 3. How do we do that is meet them where they are. I don't know who has heard the term. It's got a little bit of flexibility in terms of how to interpret that. But it really means to me and us, and what I'm proposing is engaging the residents. On next slide. Engaging the residents by meeting them where they are versus telling them how and where to be. Asking them to come, going to them instead of asking them to come to us. It's understanding their values, their style, meaning how they want to be communicated to, their preferences, needs, and perspectives, and most importantly, connecting them in a way that is effective for them, right? If I'm going too fast, let me know. Again.
Well, you're not on the same page as he is.
Well, I'm speaking too fast. So on slide 5 now, here's where we get into a little bit of meat. So how do we accomplish meeting them where they are? We proactively target and connect with the residents who would be the users of the trail. We tailor meeting times, venues, materials, discussion topics, how we message, etc., by the audience itself. Now, one size doesn't fit all. However, it sounds like a lot more work than it is. We can leverage what we have, a lot of the materials. I'll look through a lot of materials. We can leverage a lot of what we have with some minor tweaks, right? Small adjustments can make a big difference. Next slide. So the initial list of target resident groups that I solicited from folks on our committee, as well as a couple others outside folks. You can see the list here. It's running clubs, PTAs, businesses, mountain biking, Eli, right? Aren't you a mountain biker? No? Used to be?
He's a road biker.
Road biker. Okay, so maybe there's road bike groups, Friends of the Public Library, Facebook groups. There's a ton of Facebook groups out there. So proactively reaching out to them, engaging them, and not only communicating our message, but understand and get their feedback, comments, engagement. So I'm going to pause there right now. So thoughts, reaction. Does everybody understand what I mean by meeting them where they are?
Can
Okay.
you explain that? Does that mean instead of calling a townwide meeting, we meet at somebody's home in a neighborhood?
If that's what they want and if that's what they do, if there's a mom's group and they have a monthly meeting, show up at their monthly meeting instead of saying, we're having a meeting on X date, you come to us. And if it's a mom's group, we probably emphasize some of the attributes or characteristics of the trail that cater more towards children under 3, for example, or whatever. So does that make sense? Eli?
Yep, sure does.
Okay. And I'm sure the group isn't complete, the list of resident groups. Tried to give you examples, senior center, again, the mountain biking, neighborhood's important, especially some of the concerns of Charlesview. There's no Facebook group for the Hayden Road group. But I'm sure that, there's a way, but they're butters, right? Would they be users? Who knows? Hey, I'm one of them. I'd be a user, but I'm not saying anybody did anything wrong, by the way. It's easy to be, hindsight is 20/20. This is a proposal. What we did is we said, we're going to try to go out and get people to come to us to explain to them. And we started to cater to the abutters, which is important, notwithstanding, I'm one of them, right? But it's very important to do that. But that, I think, overshadowed getting true engagement from the people, more of the users of the trail. So I think we need to be more balanced in how we approach it, communicate it, in the audience we tailor to. So that's the essence of what I'm communicating. On slide 7 and 8, I've got next steps, but slide 7.
Let me go back.
Oh, sure, Eli.
How do we prioritize the residents groups? We can't, the committee doesn't have the resources to deal with all of them at
You
the.
haven't seen me drink coffee.
Yeah.
No, well, I'll talk about the prioritization in a second. That's a good question. Okay. And how we're going to execute on it. So the key factors to elevating the engagement, and we do try our best to exercise these, but I want them to be top of mind as we're going forward. We want to plan to communicate instead of, communicating the plan. We want to publish what our plan is, our milestones. We've talked about it. I think we made a major step forward in our goals, getting those out there to these different groups, even electronically right now to these targeted groups would be huge, right? And letting them know that we're targeting them, setting expectations and meeting them, of course. We're in the process of collating the feedback, but we haven't done that yet. And then, establishing trust, stating the obvious. On slide 8 and final slide, here's what I proposed for next steps would be get feedback, of course, on the overall approach. That hopefully goes without saying, but get the feedback and the approach from you guys. Review and edit the internal target list to make sure it's complete, wide depth of coverage. Identify point people for each of the target groups, and I'd be willing to do that. I need everybody's help here. Residents of the town, if you're residents of any of these groups, other groups, who are the point people? I will personally reach out to them. I will tell them what we need from them. It's called the hub and spoke model, right? We want one person, ideally, from each of those representative collective common interest groups to be the person that understands the most about what we're doing and can be the liaison. Because to Eli's point, we can't go out there and get in front of, 50, 200, 500 moms, every week to get the feedback because of scalability, but we could get to one of the moms as a point person and maybe they can even come, listen, dial into our meetings and they can get more plugged in. Okay. And then, we obviously go through the process of executing it, which again, I'm willing to lead. I don't think it's going to be that much work. I think it's probably about a 2 or 3 month level of effort to get to everybody and probably get their feedback. And then aggregate the results and obviously we'd accomplish our goal. That's it. Questions, comments?
Looking for
Thank you.
volunteers, you're just gonna.
Not right now. No, not right now. Well, I'm looking for editing, feedback on the groups, right? Are they complete? There's going to be a ton of overlap of people, but again, they have a common interest. A mom who lives in Charlesview is thinking more like a mom in the mom's group and thinking more like a mom, a resident in the Charlesview, right? And we want both of those perspectives, right? Sorry. Yes, please.
So, hi, I'm Jamie. I know we're all met tonight.
Jamie, Scott.
So there is a over 400 person running group that is moms running
Wow.
also.
Great.
And that there are people from other towns, but it's Hopkinton heavy, Hopkinton focused.
Perfect.
I also happen to be the membership chair on the PTO. It's PTO, not PTA. And I'm in the moms group. So
All right,
I
Jamie,
have a
I
long
think
overlap with.
I stand
groups.
corrected. We got a volunteer.
Press.
Through the chair, these are all things that we've talked about and identified, except for Chamber of Commerce. So, yeah, so that's a new one to this group. But it's in twice, but I'm sure they're worth it.
So important.
So this is good, we're on the same page because we've, talked about this stuff. And my question is, that with groups who have different and yet overlapping interests as well, how do we as a group stay on message if we're talking to different pockets of people? How do we stay on message so we're not telling the seniors, we're going to do just what you want, and you're not telling the moms runners, we're going to do just what you want? How do we bring it together so that the hub of the hubs, so that we're on message saying, we're collecting this and this is how we're going to use it, but without,
Without making promises. that we
I think you just answered your own question.
yeah,
We're not, if we go, sorry, I'm sure everybody wants to weigh in, but if we go in front of these groups and act like salespeople that we're trying to sell and cater just to them, and boy, we could fit you in the car you want and go to the next person, then we're gonna shoot ourselves in the foot, pardon the analogy, but we're just gonna be our worst enemies. We need to go to them, and that's why we take the base materials we have and say, this is what we're looking to do.
Mhm.
It's gonna be amazing for the town, to connect the town to each other, and we want your feedback. We want to know what's important to you, but we can't guarantee you're gonna get everything. But we want you to be engaged and understand the level of interest and usability, that you think your members would get out of the trail. And if you had your choice, what would you want in a trail? I mean, it's a feedback engagement
yes,
method,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
We're not telling them anything.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
And in
right.
fact, we should
But
start.
it still is, I think it deserves to be said that we
Yeah.
have to stay on message as we break up and do, speak to individual groups
Yeah,
or,
it's consistent.
yeah,
Yeah. No, that's a
that's
great
all.
point, Cynthia. I think it's probably a
Yeah,
lead
that's all.
statement is, we're not
A
here
lead,
promising
a
anything.
lead statement or a, overarching statement, as you said, base materials. I
Yeah.
think that's,
Mhm.
I think that's what we're meaning. So thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Presentation.
In addition to the time you were gonna spend on this, do you have a sense of the additional resources that need to be applied to make this all work?
I did put some thought into that. Eli's question was the amount of resources. I think, I think it's probably a 2 to 3 person team, and it can vary by week or by night or by event or by venue. To Jamie's point, if it's hub and spoke and I go to coffee with someone or Jamie, and Jamie has the materials, we review it, we kind of rehearse, we do FAQs or whatever, and then Jamie goes and runs with it. Jamie's the one that's going to do it, come back, collate, and we'll have this sort of core group of liaisons or the people from each of the groups, hopefully, that we can host a collective meeting on. I haven't thought all that through, but that would be the goal, is to permeate through the town, people that are just advocates of something, right? A trail, but just, trying to get information, that
Ambassadors, is that what they're?
Love it.
ambassador is a good word, but maybe we fall short of that.
No,
Because it sounds like they have to do a lot of work.
no, none of the US ambassadors do anything, so that'd be perfect.
Oh, wow.
I like the format you used today. I can envision a PowerPoint that states our goals and what our plan is.
Sure.
Then we go and present that
Mhm.
and ask for input,
Like it.
how we can tailor it to the individual group.
Yeah, I like it.
And
I
then
like it a lot.
report back.
That would be, show uniformity too.
Yeah.
So that we're not
Be no
going out
confusion of,
giving a different
Yes,
message.
100%. We have to have the same materials that we go with,
Yeah.
same questions we go with, but we can emphasize, like I said, by age group or, I'm not, hopefully gender is appropriate to say that, or ability or whatever, we want to tailor it, age. We just want to make sure that we give people the forum to answer the same questions in their own way.
I can see this really working. For example, we tailored the trail to go through town so people could go by the businesses.
Yeah. 100%.
Go to the chamber and say, how can you help, or what can we do to make you more interactive with the people on the trails?
I
And it would
like
be
it.
everything from a special, lunch for somebody
Yeah.
on the trail or
Yeah, I've spoken at those and,
on a bar, on a haircut or.
yeah, go to the Chamber of Commerce, have them, then have the business put something up about the UCTC and their businesses, right?
Have Norman cut their taxes if they dump in
Mhm.
town hall.
Or the opposite if they don't comply.
Some parking spaces.
Don't go to the parking spaces. All right, so that's item number one. And the second one, I thought that was gonna be quick, but I think this is gonna be quick, but, because I think we're gonna need some follow-up. So it's the map. So this other one is simplifying the routes. I fall into this trap still, talking about segments, but I'm hoping we could start to transition away from segments
Yeah.
to talk about routes.
Same thing.
Nope, you'll see, I think. Well, maybe it's semantics, but let's pretend it's not the same thing.
Routes? How does that fit into?
Sorry,
Here, let's talk about, so,
what are you switching to? I'm sorry.
it is the simplification of the trails. So
Dave,
For 6.
it is,
I have to alternate it back and forth.
it is sorry, yeah, it's goal number 6. And so what you're looking at, I know folks on the phone, it's very small, apologies. You're looking at the product. Before we go into the detail on that, please, I want to tell you the process I followed. So I probably should have held back. I broke the cardinal sin of handing out the detailed piece of paper. So, the steps that I actually, contacted the Trails Club because I knew they had a graphic and I was going to modify it myself. And they offered to do what I asked, on their graphic. So thanks to Peter and Chuck from the Trails Club who helped and they produced it. We'll call this a prototype. If it becomes an official UCTC, we might want to have someone else produce that. Or if this is satisfactory, that's fine. So the first step was simplifying and separating the segments into 2 buckets. You ready? You with me? Hopefully everybody's paying attention, right? So bucket number 1. What they'd serve as either a key segment as defined that the segment would be in the critical path from the Hopkinton to Milford and Ashland. So is it a critical segment in making that connection between Ashland and Milford? Because not that the other segments aren't important, but it's like anything else, is a critical path. Some of them are going to be, Jane's talked about this before, spokes or different satellite trails. So that was step number 1. So instead of putting those on the table, those are not necessarily items that you're going to see on this map right here. Bucket number 2 are the segments that would serve as a spoke or a branch. The second step was to only focus on the segments falling in bucket number 1, which is the ones that are on the critical path. The third step was to flag segments that have both UCTC and, because I went through a lot of the feedback, remember, and town resident support. So flagging those segments, if we're talking about simplifying for the residents, we shouldn't have to keep trying to get feedback and convince and get support for segments that the town residents thus far have been very supportive of. So flagging those segments. And then the fourth step, of course, would be the opposite of that, was which ones are contested, which have been contested. Okay? Everybody with me so far?
what was,
Kirk's reading, so I don't know if he's,
what was number 2?
number 2 was to focus only on the segments falling into the critical path.
Okay.
And I have this, Ken, I emailed this to you, so you'll have it in your email as well.
What are you gonna use this for?
I'll show you in a sec. I'll tell you in a sec. So this, I'm almost done on the terms of the process. The sixth step was to analyze the contiguous trail routes. And then the 7th step was to create a visual, which you're looking at now. So the purpose of the visual is to focus conversations, our group, because our group meetings, sometimes, obviously, we start talking about different segments and smaller segments, and focus on these, what I'm calling here on this display is A, B, C, and D routes. And allow us, when we go for the community outreach, to discuss these as alternatives. For example, the key says it down below, the agreed or non-contested is in green up above. See, if you look up above, it's non-contested. It hasn't been, there's no negative feedback that I could find on any feedback forms or anything like that. The green down towards the middle between the sort of areas of A, B, C, and D, that hasn't been contested either. If you look at B, that I think has been known largely as the Western alternative, right? That's B. And if you look at A, that's been called the Hayden Row route, but it's got multiple segments within it. But you can't, at that point, there's a fork in the road, so to speak, right? Where you're saying from the green that is uncontested, you can go, what's been presented thus far, you can go B or A. If you go A and it stops, and a topic came up a little earlier, so hopefully I'm not opening up a can of worms again, but if it stops at the school, it ends up being a tributary, a dead end or a loop or whatever. It doesn't make it contiguous, so you'd still, to make that successful, again, the goal of this is the connection between Ashland, Milford through Hopkinton, so to speak, is to look at B versus A. So instead of looking at segment 5 or I guess 6 and versus whatever, it's almost, you'd have to look at A, in my view, versus B. And then down below, you could see the others, and we've had the topic, I think, at our last meeting. It's really looking at C versus D. So if you break these into smaller pieces, people get confused and they start, we're asking them, again, this is my view for feedback, and I'm going to stop after this for open up discussion. But if we talk about a segment within A or within B or within C or within D, we're actually kind of wasting our time in some respects, because we're really talking about the contiguation, or if that's the proper, is that a word? I might have made that up. The contiguous
Yeah.
route. Yeah. But that's really what we're talking about. So the goal here was to simplify it and use it, Eric, to your question, finally getting to that, is for the purposes of communication, and look if these are preferred. So I'll stop.
No question.
Go ahead.
Shouldn't this segment, if the green means uncontested, this is Center Trail, right? Shouldn't this be green because it's the Echo Trail? That already exists?
Oh, I think it's because
Oh, there's green underneath it
Oh,
as
there is,
well.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so it is green.
No? I don't know. I can't quite see it in this handout here. But I thought that was green
Okay, but
underneath it.
it's there, so.
Green is uncontested for the Upper Charles Trail.
Yeah.
Right, so the Echo Trail.
Echo Trail doesn't
is
qualify
one of
as
the
a-
two alternate
That hasn't
D
been-
versus C.
Oh, yeah. But it exists to.
I got
It
it.
exists,
exists,
but that's
but
not,
it hasn't been
that's not the
done.
point.
It's not been adopted as part of the Upper Charles Trail.
Correct.
Yeah, good. Thanks.
We're not there yet. It's not that we're saying one way or the other. We're just not there yet. More work to be done.
One of the downsides of
Wait
this,
a minute, one person at a time, please. Eli?
one of the downsides, I mean, I like what you've done, but one of the downsides is you can't see like the Western alternative is not one color. You can't see it as a single route.
Mhm.
I think it's blue.
Yeah, it's blue, and then it overlaps with an accepted non-contested part of the Western route.
I understand that, but it's not shown as a single entity.
But to the point of which, I understand your question, your comment, but the green represents, I think, the start of that Western route, right? And that has received, again, I poured through the stuff. I haven't seen all the emails yet from Michelle, but I poured through it, and I didn't see anybody contesting that lower piece. So the question is, do we take a right or a left when you go up there?
You gotta cross over Hayden Road to get there.
Well, that's the yellow. That's this down here.
The yellow is still.
That's either D or C. Yeah. That's the
So-
contested or unknown.
Well,
So
now,
through, excuse
Cynthia.
me, I just want to ask for the sake of time, to what degree do we need to really get into the weeds on this right now? Is this something right now that we
Let's
should?
wait till we get
Yeah, it's
everybody's reports back.
very good question.
mean-
It's not my decision on that, but I support where you're going with that.
Uh-huh.
My goal was to simplify it.
Got it.
And frankly, not that, plenty of people put a lot of work in this committee, no pride in authorship. I put a lot of thought and I thought, if I'm a community member, I don't care of how many individual segments make up these connectors or these routes. I just care about a piece of it, but it's not a standalone.
Sorry, I think that my point is this seems like it's a vehicle for how to do our communicating with folks.
That was the goal.
And a very useful tool. I'm just not sure how much time we need to spend on it right now, but it could.
Yeah, we can have it on a future agenda for feedback and mindset. I was just taking this away as a tool for communication. That was the goal. So I'd leave it with the.
Thumbs up on it. Thumbs up.
Yeah, no,
we can
anyone
take it.
else, maybe make a comment?
I think it's a very good start to simplify the presentation to the general public.
Okay.
Definitely.
It out that on my printer, I must be out of red. Oh, D is orange and C, so that's probably why it looks like A, D, and C are all connected. They're not. So apologies about that. So I'll have to go to Staples in the morning.
No, this,
I'll treasure some, get some ink from the committee.
it's still very useful.
Okay.
All right, thank you. One, I would just like to thank Scott, and I agree that this could be a very useful tool, educational tool to help people see
We
clearer.
don't want it to be as a battleground.
That's what I'm trying to avoid,
Correct.
honestly.
But you have a land that's a battleground.
Well, I don't see it that way, obviously. But the way there were individual battles going on each of those A versus B.
I think we have gone through this and understand where we want the trail, then we draw the map to what we want the trail to be, and then get input as to how it affects it. We don't want Charlesview group battling the Hayden Road group, battling the McDermott group, battling the downtown, you know.
No, I hear your point, but segment-wise, that's going on. So either that or we just don't show anything. I know I'm trying to be Brad. I think it's hard to talk about a trail that's meant to go through our town and connect things without showing the only connections that are present. We can't avoid it. I totally hear. It's hard. It's
We don't
contentious.
know if all of this is feasible, because we don't have the feedback yet from our individual goals committees as to whether these groups even exist.
These are the only ones that, these are the connections presented thus far. There's no connections that we have at the table right now.
Oh, no, I disagree.
In the interim, between the upper green and lower green, I didn't see anything.
No.
Well, we could,
That we showed in both Hopkinton Park.
but there's no contention. That's above. That's all green.
There will be tension when we
There
get
will
there.
be.
That's what we're
Every inch.
over the years. When we go into neighborhoods, that's when the discussions start. And when we go to Legacy Farms or Easton Street or Presswood Drive,
Yeah.
there will be much more of what we're seeing.
Well, maybe this has more letters on it, but
Your concept is good.
I think it's a starting point. It's a good
It's a
deal. It's a
tremendous tool.
precision piece. I think our engineers can take a look at it and, they have some thoughts. So I think, this is a lot of good stuff here, really good work. I'm really,
I appreciate it. Again, pride in authorship. I just close on this topic because we do have to move on.
yes.
Is I think in order for me to lead the engagement piece, I need a communication tool.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be this one, but I need something in front of people. And if I put
I agree.
15 or 20 seconds in front of them, I'm going to come out of there just as confused as I did out of the April or everything
There's
else.
nothing wrong with the map.
Yeah. No, but our committee has to come up with something. It doesn't have to be this.
I think this is a good place to start. I think as we continue working with this, you'll find that I believe that will be continued to be tweaked as we go on. I think this is a good place to start. Okay, we have a treasurer's report. Scott, I'm really pleased and grateful for all the
No
work.
problem. I feel like I'm absorbing the agenda and the good news is for this one, that we haven't spent any money yet this year, really. So it's a quick one. If I can find my,
It becomes very popular when we give our budget back.
yeah, I know. So, and I'll get this through the chair. I don't have the copy, printed out, or to Dave's. But just for the record,
Yep,
our budget, as it stands right now, available budget is $54,000. We have an encumbrance of 28,000, which is carryover from last year, which obviously could be released at some point and added to that. And as I said, since July, I have not seen the invoices unless Dave's gonna correct me, across our account.
No, I'm not gonna correct.
So that's the,
I know what you're gonna.
well, I
if
think
you guys
that
did
encumbrance
see
is,
For
yeah.
purposes, you might have to do another one.
right, and I believe that's why I carried over the 38, no?
well, it's
That's
28,
for-
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
That was that's.
That was,
Funds for.
that was,
the grant.
that was,
Sorry about that.
yes.
Okay,
I
so,
lost track in my peanut-sized brain of who the treasurer is. You took it over. Okay.
yes,
Hard drive school.
Jane, do you want to ask other working groups to?
No, clear cash.
yes. Yes, but he was, oh, I'm sorry. Other working groups, well, I think while Scott had the microphone, we were just letting him do that. Are
Okay.
you done with
I'm
the?
done with the treasurer's report. And if anybody has any invoices or anything like that, obviously send them on to Jane and get forwarded to me.
That's where we've been doing it. So Barry did a good transfer of,
Yes. I've got all the
Great.
spreadsheets and
good, okay, thanks. Working groups, continued working groups. Who would like to go? I know Scott did a big one, two big ones.
Eli would.
Eli would.
Eric and I are on the group to review the Western alternative with the Trails Club plan, and we met with Peter. And he was very gracious and went over the entire plan and highlighted the areas where there require easements or land transfers, and discussed the status of the bridge. I did not take specific notes during that meeting to just allow the presentation to proceed. And Peter and I are meeting tomorrow to go over the route again, so I'm gonna defer any recommendations until the
That's
next time we meet.
That's fine, thank you. Thank you, both, all three of you for doing that. Elaine, procedural, they did take minutes. Could we, but these two need to vote on them. Can we do that right now? Okay. Can you take the motion to accept?
I
the
make a
minutes
motion to accept the
The
minutes as written.
Of August 30th. And that was your working group meeting.
Western Approach Working Group.
Is that something the whole committee should?
No, just the two of us.
I
They end up being your minutes, so you could.
Okay, so we'll include it in our minutes, okay. All right. Any other working group reports?
I got a quick comment.
Working group?
Yeah, it fits in the one that Cynthia and I are supposed to be working on. So, I'm just gonna make the comment that maybe, another item to add on to Scott's list of organizations is the Respite Club, which is a kind of an existing handicap.
I'm sorry, which club?
Rest.
The Respite group there.
Group home.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. you're-
The
Respite-
Lisdale
yeah,
Respite Center and ADA. Yeah.
Should still, we still need to
Yeah,
track
they're-
whatever they
Yes.
Do you
do.
have contact over there by any chance? Anybody?
I think it's easy to establish one.
What's the name?
Plus, they're a huge part of our community, so that.
Yeah,
Yes, that's great. And Dave is actually on that committee and they have two open seats. Oh, no, I shot you an email today, Dave, because your name,
I'm sorry, the
the ADA,
yeah, that has not that committee hasn't been approved yet by the.
Hasn't, I noticed that that you're on it and there are two open seats.
Elaine has some information.
There was an old ADA oversight group that hasn't been active for years.
Correct.
Replaced
2018.
by the new group that we're waiting for the Attorney General to approve the bylaw before it can.
I see.
That's what it is.
I see. Okay, so Ken and I can't work with them yet.
They don't exist yet.
We're ahead of, we're ahead of the curve.
Ken, my homework turned up old data, 2018 is what I found. Okay, Dave,
All right.
you're relieved. Okay, thanks.
A lot of work.
Any other working goals group reports? I think I had taken on the task to ask Matt or Dave, and I'll do that right now, about resubmitting the Mass Trails application segment from East Main Street to Hopkinton State Park. We had prepared, but it didn't go anywhere.
That was the second application,
Yes.
along with, yeah, the,
Is there any way, do you think that we could fit that in this year's request, maybe for CPC funds?
Just for
yeah, there's a scope of work for the grant that we received.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I mean, we can ask, probably need to ask, confirm the whole spending this grant before applying for another one. I would think if they say you can apply for another grant, if we're this far ahead into the design or something, then you could think about using that.
but so temporarily, the work that we did, we shouldn't be, maybe for next year, if the committee decides that that's the direction they want to go in.
I'm a little,
Or would there be any piece of it that we could request CPC funds for? It would obviously not be the scope of work.
to do the design, start looking at segment.
Yeah.
You could do, if the state allows us
No, just through,
through CPC, that's previous, you guys can approach CPC for anything you want.
Well, I mean, it fits our budget.
what was the amount that we were, oh, that was 250 or 300? That probably,
You can ask CPC for $5 million if you want.
would that be something that the committee
I
would,
get it, but I mean, you can,
no, that'd be something that the committee would entertain? That we, just to keep the forward momentum while we're doing all this other work, would the committee entertain approaching CPC for, what was it, 250? It was something like that.
Yeah, I think, I don't want
Or-
to put,
Last year when we,
Engineering on
it was,
one.
it was just preliminary design for segment one.
the whole thing or just from,
Because what I'm
Franklin
thinking is
Rock.
that paperwork is already done. And we could apply that to, we could take that to CPC and ask them if they would consider that. That's all I'm
It
thinking.
Won't happen for tomorrow night.
No, I'm just,
Doesn't happen.
does everybody understand where I'm going with
No.
that?
Yeah, that's where I was trying to go before when it came to the grants, but. And I
Right,
think
so,
what Ken was kind of going with is, can we do some improvements so we can see what we're talking about in terms of a line or where it could be? And improvements might be just sort of like Chuck does at Fruit Street, clear and brush, barking.
Yeah, we're just making a passable trail.
Yeah.
This is right.
okay, so why don't we continue this discussion for our next meeting?
Good idea.
And in the meantime, maybe we can pull that, get some numbers from you, so we have something for CPC,
for segment,
for segment one.
okay. Because we had split segment one into Legacy Farm Road North to the park and Legacy Farm Road to
And I,
to the
right,
museum,
and there were different,
International Marathon Center.
IMC, huh?
But
because CPC does like choices. If we went with them, we could say, would you consider this or that, or both, or all?
You're,
But we're ahead of ourselves.
yes, you are.
Okay, so we'll put that on the agenda next time. Any other working group reports? Okay, we'll keep working on our individual tasks and, yeah, liaison reports.
I've already told you where CPC is, so. And I haven't talked to Norman since our last, well, I haven't talked to him recently since he was dunked at Family Day. So
We have such good sports in this town.
Right.
Parks and Rec,
Nothing.
nothing. Planning Board, really nothing that would consider, that would be of interest to this
Yep.
group. And Open Space is busy with all kinds of things, but nothing to do with the hour segment. They're mostly on the western part, Fruit Street, you know.
Yeah,
Cameron.
wonderful
They're doing
things
lots,
at
lots of
Fruit
good work
Street.
over there.
Wonderful trails over there.
All right,
No more.
so everyone has a copy of the minutes. Everyone, I hope, got a chance to breeze through them.
Chair,
Yes.
Scott, did I spell your name correctly?
No.
Okay, let me know.
It's Knous.
Thank you.
And also Mary Ellen's was, Mary Ellen.
Oh, yes, it is. Okay, thank you.
Who's Mary Ellen?
Just felt mine.
Gambon, from the Independent.
I've been on
A lot of
minutes.
times to practice, I guess.
Oh,
You've been around for a bit. That didn't
Any
sound
other,
right.
any other corrections or comments in the minutes?
I make a motion to approve as written,
With the
As
correction,
amended.
As amended.
as amended.
There is a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And while we're at it, I should have included the
Thing.
little minutes from Eli and Peters and Eric's working group meeting that they had.
Well, cool.
So include them. All right. And you two approve of them. Okay. So
Oh,
voted.
he wrote them and I read them. Yes, we did.
I know, two people voted. They vote unanimously.
Change your mind until they're approved.
All righty, moving right along, I think that's it. Oh, I would like to take, find out if anyone has any other topics they would like to talk about the next agenda, Ken.
Yeah, so one topic that we've dealt with before has to do with just maintaining accessibility by paying Mike Bolson to mow some land. So one segment in particular is the Methodist property, which is getting, gets overgrown. If he mows it now, it'll stay open all winter and much more passable right now. So I think we paid a little bit of money out of our budget in the past, I believe, or at least Mike thought that.
It came, we did, and then it went to the select board. And I think he's been all over to different committees and
Anyway, I
he's
just-
done
Much money you
work.
talk about.
This piece.
So it's
Yeah,
from East Main to the rail bed on land that we bought.
I know how much money.
$300 or so.
God almighty.
Yeah, hold on.
I thought we passed a
Hang on.
motion that the chairman could approve anything up to $2,000.
But I wouldn't want to do it if like Ken says, I mean,
Think about it.
it's.
Picking up work all over.
Yeah,
$300. Is it worth it?
Can they veer off?
I make a
couple
motion,
hours?
we spend $300 for what Ken just said.
Second,
it'll probably involve some mowing on the north side of Main Street too, around the.
To
Well, you know
$1,000 for
what?
what
No,
Ken just.
all right. So I will
Second.
talk with Mike
You,
and I will find out. I have a general idea of what you're looking for. And I will report back.
You can still accept the motion and approve the money and then decide where
Yep.
to spend it.
Do it after.
So we don't have to come back here to get.
Money,
We don't have
if-
to wait.
but if you, as you said, Eric, it doesn't even need a motion because Jane can do it all by herself whenever she wants to.
That's right.
Screw it out.
Wanted to raise it as a topic.
would I have to contact the folks from 26.2 if he were to go on that side of the road?
Yes.
No, it's still town property.
It's town property, but it's
We don't
legal.
want to go over and screw around on the north side. Keep it on the south side.
It would be good to liaise with them in any way. I guess that's probably reasonable.
Nominated.
I will reach out for contact information, see how they feel about it.
There is somebody.
All right, yes, yes.
usually the first and third Wednesday.
Am I updating my on-call contract or?
Yes, we don't have to vote on that, do we?
I don't
We should.
I just whispered to Dave, like, am I updating?
No, it's meant.
So we, this is a good place for it. I've forgotten how we worded it, though.
If you voted something, I think that you could sign it,
I'm trying to vote.
but you should probably vote every year. That was last year's on-call.
Yeah, that.
Oh, the on-call?
It expired.
Yeah.
We had an on-call last year.
All right, so I would recommend, could I have a motion that we update our on-call services for VHB? Is that appropriate language for this year?
Yeah, you might want to just set an initial value. You can always amend it with another vote.
10,000?
Last year was 15, but.
15. No, I think we should do the,
15.
we'll
we got
do
plenty of
15 to
money.
get us started and then we amend it as we go along. So I,
I make a motion that we do that.
right, so
Second.
we have language correct for you, Elaine? Did you capture that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion by Eric, seconded by Jim. All in favor? Unanimous. Back. Thank you. I think that's important.
How's that gonna work
Final motion?
for me?
Wait, when's their next meeting?
All right,
I think the 5th.
Fraud against it?
could I just have one more, just
Okay.
everybody, any more agenda items?
Bro.
Is that it? Okay, we got.
Excuse me,
Yes,
Mr. Chair, next meeting, we're gonna talk more about CPC, I think more specifically, right?
correct.
I will know more.
Well, I mean, a little bit more
Yeah,
concrete.
Yeah,
Hopefully some more ideas.
Got it.
Two.
It's like 1 week
we
after
gotta
that.
get placeholders on their calendar.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
So, should I revisit any of my numbers for construction costs? Estimates, like,
yes, so we,
I can come up with a couple
We need
different
good
design
numbers.
stages for segment one. Because there, if you're going for tip, there's a first phase that I think you could pursue.
yeah, because we want to be careful. We're going to use this, we have to follow their guidelines if we want to continue.
So that one, because that one was I think was it 8 million or 7 million, whatever it was, from point A to point B.
Right.
And we did some combining of segments up there. So I just want to go back, refresh, look, confirm, like, a lot of that was based on linear feet and the climate of costs have changed. a
Inflation
little bit.
hasn't-
So
Hit you guys, has it?
Yeah, the
Thank
trail needs
That's
to be
it.
15
Supply
feet wide
is-
now.
Okay,
But I
So-
will revisit those and come up with a few options for the next discussion, because it sounds like you gotta go October 13th to the.
Have a fuel kicker.
okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Can I have my motion now?
Actually, let's decide on the next meeting or to discuss it, the timing of it.
What's the next meeting? Anyone have it? I can look at my
October
calendar.
5th?
October 5th,
Okay.
Week before this.
So we're doing the first Wednesday still, right?
first and the third.
First, the third,
Thursday.
and third.
So that is Yom Kippur. It doesn't affect me, but just.
Oh, it does. We do like to try and thank you.
Say, yeah, like there's a
So
school
in
holiday
that
day.
case, we would go to the 2nd and the 4th or the second.
It's gonna be two.
Not on my calendar either.
We move it to Tuesday or? Excuse me,
We
Chair.
could do
Because
Tuesday.
I think if we wait a week, then CPC, that's the week of CPC.
All right, so the Tuesday would be October 4.
Sounds okay to me.
Is that good for you guys, Matt and Dave? October 4? It's a Tuesday.
Selectmen meeting?
No, but someone.
We need to make it earlier, I think.
Place.
Oh, we would have to be in a different
Yom
place.
Kippur on my-
We can be
Yeah.
in place.
We could do it.
Starts on
All
the
right.
night of the fourth.
Take the slide
Oh,
for that.
yeah, so Yom Kippur starts on the night of the fourth.
Oh,
Oh,
how about Thursday? We need to.
That's why there's no school on the 5th.
October fourth is also my birthday, so I'm not.
Happy birthday. It's my daughter-in-law's too. Happy
missed
birthday.
out on a
It's my
lot of
daughter.
presents, but,
You can't do this?
and a cake.
There's no school on Wednesday, the 5th. Is
Right,
that what we're
For Yom
talking?
Kippur.
Right.
Jane, I have a
That
comment.
makes sense.
I have a historical meeting on the 4th.
Oh, okay. The 4th won't work either.
And
Um,
this time of year is tricky.
So we're
with
talking
the-
about
It
moving it
Available
to
the 6th.
the 8th, 7th or 8th?
They can't make it on the 6th.
Can you make it?
October the 8th?
Think so.
No, oh, sorry.
Saturday? No.
Yeah, no, where is it? No, it's Saturday.
On the right.
Right, so what's the last,
I'm on the wrong month.
Every third
You're
Wednesday.
absolutely right.
what's the last week in September?
28th.
The 28th? How about moving it up?
To
before?
next week.
Yeah, to next week.
Okay.
No?
Oh,
That's next week.
Okay,
What do we do
no,
then?
Can't do the
Yeah.
27th or
Shoot,
28th.
man.
okay, forget
I
that.
can do the 29th.
Third Wednesday.
Following
29.
Wednesday, after the 5th.
Wednesday.
I can-
The 12th.
The 12th.
well.
But that's 2 days, but that's 2 days before the CPC's due, or 1 day before it's due.
We'll
Don't
just,
worry about
we'll
it.
get
Doesn't
something.
it? I thought we had a deadline.
29th of September?
There is no
Make revisions
deadline.
after you submit.
Did we rule out the 29th
Yeah.
of
Deadline,
September?
but you have it in.
Placeholders. Believe me, we react.
Please
all-
look at September 29th,
Liaison.
folks.
Huh?
Talk to our liaison.
I'm
Skip 29th, September
It's
29th.
next week.
Get in
It's next week.
Oh, that's next week.
No, it's busy. No, the 29th does not work
Hang on, 29th.
of September.
It is next week.
Okay with me.
29th.
What are we going?
It's kindergarten back to
Yeah.
school night. I'm
The
gonna be
29th
at
was the-
marathon.
Okay, the 29th. And then we'll skip the,
Yeah.
oh, but there's Elaine.
29th
is room
works.
Available on the 29th?
29th of September?
Hallelujah, the 29th,
Wait,
September 29. That's a week from tonight, everybody.
Martin?
No, Claire's in kindergarten.
Tomorrow.
A week from,
What are we gonna do
No,
with that?
first grade. Oh my God, no, she's first grade.
we're the same,
Kindergarten
CPC
is
mainly.
Wednesday, first grade Thursday.
I'm not
It's
gonna
first
do-
grade.
Tell your
They will have information for us. so-
Yeah, they'll have great information.
Itemize what we're gonna put the placeholders
I
in
will
for.
entertain your
Fantastic.
next motion, Eric.
Eric, go for it.
Board meeting on.
I make a motion, we adjourn and leave this room as quickly as possible.
I second that emotion.
With with amendments.
Are we clear? The next meeting is
A
September
second.
29th. And we can have this room.
Yeah, we won't have one.
Thank you. Okay, I have a motion on the floor that we adjourn, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jamie.